Alright, today what I'm going to do is a demo on using the Zorn palette to make painting. I'm just going to do a copy of a Zorn, and I'm going to just do it loosely. I'm going to do what I refer to sometimes just um, as a poster study, and what that will do is relieve some of the pressure of making anything perfect. And I'm going to think more about, can I hit the palette that he has, and take it for a test drive, really. So I already know that you cannot get some of the colors that he did in this, and I'm going to show that. So, but I'm also, it is a great, fantastic palette to get used to. And there is definitely plenty of positive in using it. So look at that, straight down. You can put that in. Get into learning how to draw, and then you will be able to be free to do stuff like this, which is really just kind of finding the drawing. So I'm gonna demonstrate just how to take this for a test drive, and I'll probably be just fixing it as I go. I'm not all that concerned with the drawing all that much. You know, the thing with these sketches, and I just did a whole thing on the Master Sketch 30-day challenge, I'll probably do another one soon, is that if you get into letting go a little bit, you can study a lot. And this is just going to be a test and seeing what the palette can get by taking it for a test drive on Anders Zorn painting. So let's dive right in using just a Trekell Legion 9100 long flat. This is just the three colors that are so-called on the Zorn palette. And I'm just going to take some titanium white and move it down there, even though he did not use titanium white. Zorn used probably flake white, because flake white was the color that was around at the time. It's possible that he used something like a zinc white, but he did not have lead white. He died in 1919, and lead white really didn't come into production until around 1921. Or no, 1921 is when he died, and 1919 is when the lead white came into production. So it was pretty fantastic not that I want to get pedantic about the argument side of all this, but he certainly did not use it, because most of his paintings were done earlier than that. But anyway, let's take it for a drive. Let's take a look here. And the point of this is just to experiment a little bit and let go. Poster studies are just a fantastic way to just test out things. And you could do a master sketch, master study of anything if you want to test. If you want to just explore, I get into the habit of studying all the time, you know. Alright, if you want, at the beginning, I usually use just a little mineral spirits. I'm going to just frame that head. Probably going to be a little bit on the dark side. But I'm going to find the relationships in the painting. So then I'm going to find it here. Then I'm going to just bring that together. Do master sketches all the time. All right, so the beauty of something like this palette, look at that. You get this gross kind of green. Just going to clean my brush. You could even just do a little head study if you wanted to. And depending on the printout that you get is going to be, what you're going to be matching in a sense too, even though I never really match. But that's what you're going to be gauging the information off of. So let's just get a little note on there to begin. And I like to think of like what's a nice brown that I can mix. So take your red, bring it off to the side. Yellow ochre. So if you wanted to be true to his palette, taking and using something like a lead white would work. Some people don't like to use it because they feel like it's too toxic, which is totally valid. Right, my brown is going to be somewhere in that range. Gotta be careful with just yellow ochre is one of those colors is going to be all over the place, depending on which brand you're using. Just a touch of mineral spirits to just loosen that up a little bit. You don't have to, I don't know, you be as faithful as you want to the reference. Depends on what you're trying to get out of a master sketch. For me, I'm always pretty loose. All right. I'll just frame that head up. Look at the shadow. Yellow ochre is just one of those colors that just a bit all over the place, you know. So the where they used to be mined from in Italy, where most yellow ochre I think came from, has been overmined, and therefore all the variations of it are going to be different. All right, let's take and just put the nose, mouth, orbital structure. Keep it as crude as you want to. When we were doing poster studies, I was taught not to care as much about the drawing, and I remember just seeing this Ted Seth Jacobs study, and it just looked like the arm was like a 2x4. I mean, that's really where a lot of these come from, which are an extension of the French academic tradition. But if details and stuff like that and eyeballs are going to get in your way of seeing the bigger picture, then caution, don't put them in. You can totally get the essence on something like that. So we used to do them. I mean, we did them at Water Street, and then I did them with Tony Ryder, and there's always a difference in what people go after. I remember asking two of my instructors at Water Street at the time, and they both gave me two different answers of what they were looking for. There we go. It's high chroma. So it's up to you where you want to go with the data, but the beauty of a palette like this is that you are forced, you have a short amount of variables, or small amount of variables, and you're looking at just yellow, just red, just orange, and your orange is really a mix between the two. So it's one of the nice things that you can kind of get away with not having to put in too much detail, because you cannot get the detail. So sometimes in the beautiful abstraction of that, you may realize that most paintings are not hanging on detail. They're hanging more on the picture, even though there's exceptions to everything. But just taking, these are just fantastic exercises to be able to do, when you're in your studio, and just to learn from all those that inspire you to paint. Or that you want to paint like. So just get in there and study, generalize, really think about what this, there we go, just a dark red note for the ear. And I find that sometimes, even when I'm studying, if I'm going to jump into a painting, I almost always will do a poster. If I'm trying to work out any kind of an idea, because what that allows me to do is just to take and simplify the information, because that's really where the painting kind of is. I think a good painting should be able to be simplified. Of course, there's exceptions to all of it, and I'm not saying all of them are. And normally that's where everybody tends to go, is like, well, but except for. It's like, yeah, there's plenty of except fors, and I'm not talking about every painting, just saying generally. So anyway, do what you will with the data. But anyway, even an abstraction of something like that would be, I'd be like, yeah, that's interesting. That's the essence of Zorn. And the thing to take away with the Zorn palette and using simplifying like this is that the French academic tradition was all about using simplified palettes and moving between them, So I'm sure there's some truth in this, but it seems to be like a myth now that Zorn just used just these colors to get all his paintings. It's clear that he did not. So anyway, that would be fine in my book to leave it. I'm going to do just one more note, just of the top of the nostril, that there's a red. Oh, that's too dark. That there's a note there, and it depends on, of course, the source that we're pulling this from. If I found a different source, it's possible that, you could get a darker or lighter example of it. But, even something like that, to me, that looks like a face, and it's so simplified. Anyway, that's a piece of the data. So if I now want to go up and think about yellow, because that's kind of what this is, I'm going to now put that up next to it. Bring that up in it. So I only have one variable, and if I want to shift it from that yellow towards something, I only have a short set of options of where it can go. So I encourage you to just think through it. Again, the shortening of the variables may help you. It may not help you. You may be frustrated. Sometimes in frustration, that's actually a wonderful place to be. But play and find out what you think about all this stuff. And again, think. That's what I encourage everybody to always do. Always think. Think about what your takeaways are as you're in the middle of it. And sometimes even frustration leads to epiphanies. There are plenty of times when I've done a painting and I thought, man, that was terrible, or it's terrible in the middle of it, and then by the end of it I'm like, oh my gosh, that was enlightening. And then you have some bigger takeaway, but it's pushing through the frustration. And there are plenty of paintings where I actually had that. And, I encourage you, again, there's so much about this is to look inward and have our own opinions. I encourage you all to begin to do that. So it's a little dark key right there. There we go. All right. Maybe I want to get a little bit, I'm just going to grab a touch of that back eye just to give a little bit more. And maybe I'll add a touch more of the reflection right in there. Maybe it just gets a touch lighter. Touch lighter there. I don't know. Just don't go nuts. Ask yourself, what's the least amount of information I need to make it look like, what I'm looking at. That's a wonderful way to even have a takeaway from this. All right, and then let's get that in. Depending on the canvas is going to be how the marks move. Meaning that if I had a very absorbent canvas, which I like sometimes, actually I've been loving an absorbent canvas recently, then I'm going to make different marks. The brush is going to drag differently. That's the other thing to research when think about this stuff. Is that what did Zorn use? Like you can't not think that all of the pieces are variables and that we would get the same. Like you just I encourage you all to research if you're interested in an artist to see how they worked, and don't just take the internet for its word that this is the Zorn palette. It is not. All right, get some black in there just to deepen it. Sometimes I find that even ultra marine blue can help to deepen that, just to get it darker. If you're not used to putting on a lot of paint, put on a lot of paint. This is the place to put it on. The stakes are so low. Cut that in. You can draw, you can fix. All right. So that green is something I just can't get. And that's also why I'm always amazed that there's so much argument online about the mythical Zorn palette, as I call it, the Zorn-y palette. The thing to take away is that there's certainly some good that comes out of limiting your palette, but the Apelles palette would probably be a better name. And this is not a palette for everything. This is a palette that would be good for portrait and not so much for still life. Like if I'm painting lemons, this is probably one of the worst palettes for it. I don't even know if I should say the worst palette. If I had no yellow on there and I was trying to get a yellow, then that would actually be worse. So I shouldn't say the worst. All right. Cool. Yeah, so you just can't hit that green. Like I just cannot get that green. The only green I can get with that is this yellow and my blue, and that's my green. To get that green, I would need something like a Viridian or a Cobalt green, and my guess would be the Viridian is going to be what gets you that. I'm not even going to put it in because it's not going to get even close, but I'll probably just grab Viridian just so you can kind of see. And it'll be my cheat, which you're more than welcome to follow along and do the same. But it's clear that Zorn did not have... you can't hit that green, So the rest of the palette, I'd say yes, and it's possible that maybe he only introduced a color at a time. I don't really know. I don't really know enough about him, and I usually don't do too much of a deep dive into people. Usually we'll kind of dive into them, but look at that, like silvery white. It's really what happens when you mix titanium too. All right, so that shooting it down brings all this over. And it feels like it shifts towards yellow. Michael Harding is a nice warm white, which could be a nice color used in here. Part of this is even the tainting of the brush, which is just shifting it towards, here we go, whatever the heck was on the brush before. Again, take the corner of that, run it down. That's really what even good drawing gets you, is that you learn how to kind of calibrate or draw at the same time as painting, so you're always fixing as you're going. One of the reasons why I kind of moved away from the indirect approach was to be able to kind of be more freedom, which again I don't think is all that bad. It's a great place to begin. Again, shorten the variables here. I don't know if I even need that book in the background. Whatever's in the side pillow, it looks like. Michael Harding has a nice warm white that hits this warm note there. So, you know, the thing about the Zorn palette, if you're going to paint with it, which I think it's, you know, fine to do, it's just know that he used more. It's really just to simplify information down to just a few variables, and then that's kind of the same way that I think of any limited palette. It's going to hit this, and then if I don't like it, I'm going to add in more to hit the thing that I'm looking to hit. So it comes over, down. The other thing too is that this is probably closer to the way that Zorn worked. He, you know, these guys, and like even Cecilia Bow or Sargent, they didn't do transfer drawings. They were just going for it like this. And if you're holding the bar up high of like what you're looking to achieve, I would say paint in the style and the manner of the person, or at least eventually move towards it if that's what you desire. I'm not saying anyone has to paint in any way, but if you're trying to make brushier paintings, and Zorn, which tend to be a lot of people's favorites, are your favorite, then try it out and get good at it. Work really hard. You'll eventually get it. Right, there's a thickness of the paint happening right in there. Dragging marks that can only be made if you do it certain ways. Sometimes even just a wet into wet approach like this allows you to experiment with that stuff. There we go. if you don't nail it, then scrape it and do it again. All right, now back to skin. Can I get like a red? Deep red? I think you can. It's the shape of those two things coming together. Make that. Interesting. Alright, so took a quick little break. I'm actually just going to pop in the green now just so you can see it. Viridian gets you pretty close. And the analogy I use all the time is that, you know, think about it like a subway. If you want to go to the Met or something like that, then get off at the subway station closest to the Met. Look at that. Pop a green in there. And all of a sudden we're just hitting that note. And I mean, you can do two ways of kind of analyzing this. One would be, oh, that's interesting. Can I get Viridian with those two colors? And the answer is no, you cannot. If you take yellow ochre and then you mix ivory black, the answer is you're not even going to get close to a Viridian. Viridian's pretty high chroma blue-green, and I would imagine that's the color that he probably had on here. Sometimes artists of the time were taking other colors like chrome green and Prussian and mixing them together. So, you know, again, depends what you think, but I'd say that's pretty close to that color. I don't think it's an exact match. I think there's a brightness even that's happening on the screen of this that I just cannot hit, but it's, again, at the end of the day, not all that big of a deal. So everything is a extraction in pretty much everything that I like to do, and it's why at a certain point, everything is a departure from extraction from what I see, rather than just a pure copy. I think the pure copy thing gets kind of old and pedestrian, or at least it was for me. So things to just think about as you move forward. They can be different things for different people, but not what I'm ever after anymore. All right, this has to get darker, so red and black is the only two options I have to get that dark in there. Does it have to look exactly like the hand that he has? No, it does not. Again, the power of suggestion, especially on a poster study like this. Totally up to you. You answer it. How much detail do I want to have? Totally up to you. And then this. Now as the shape can come down. It has to get darker. There we go. So again, make it a sketch. It doesn't have to be a pure copy, but take it for a test drive. See what you get. See what you think. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear them. Note them in your submission. There we go. And then try it. Next thing we're going to do is take this for a test spin in a painting to see what you get. All right, there we go. So to get that to pop, I'm going to just take and make it light. Value. And then I can come in, clean it from the backside, kind of like the the silhouette of the contour. There even seems to be a blue in there, and you just can't. Maybe blue-green. You can't get a blue-green with this palette. There's no blue even. I mean, blue is just, this is your blue right there. It's not the blue that I see there. It looks like more like a Prussian. So my guess would be he probably had Prussian or something like that on the palette. But it doesn't particularly matter. All right, take that up in here. There we go. Anyway, that's about good for like a study. I mean, you make it as complicated as you want to, but there we go. I think that's good. Look at how even just crude that is. Let me hit it from the other side, and then I think you'll see that even the silhouette of a hand will give the spirit of what it is. Like, can you nail it in something like that of a hand? You know, meaning can you nail it feeling like a hand just by doing something like that? You see a lot of those studies of old masters, and you're like, oh man, it's so simplified. Or Sargent, you know, or Zorn, or Mancini, or any of these artists. All right.